Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for attending tonight's Carmel Clay School Board workshop meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
All members are present.
Thank you. Please rise for the pledge, which will be led today by the Collegewood State Science Bowl champions. Thank you. We've got a number of special presentations to start off our meeting this evening. We've got two special, groups of students, or a group of students and a student, and two special music educators. And I'd like to thank our students, educators, and families for attending our board meeting tonight and receiving this recognition. After each presentation, we will take a quick picture. So parents, you'll have an opportunity to take a picture as well. And then after the presentations, we'll take a brief break before we actually get into the workshop part of our meeting. Everybody's obviously welcome to stay, but we understand it's a school night as well. Also, one of the things that we do as a board is we get what's called kudos, where community members reach out to us and want to thank people for doing it. So this month we had two administrators who stepped up for the website that are receiving kudos, and two bus drivers that had parents reach out to us and say, these bus drivers were awesome. So I just thought it's important to share that with you. So first on the agenda, we have the Collegewood State Science Bowl champions and Principal Kathy Olson.
Fabulous. I've got another wingman. So thank you. Thank you for having us this evening. We're super excited to be here. I have most importantly, the person who's in charge of this. This is J.C. Schneider, who I'm going to invite up here with me too, but I'm super excited to have the opportunity to present for our state champion Science Bowl team. We have 15 members this year who are all part of that. And it's exciting because what's so nice about these academic competitions is schools are given the liberty to participate in all sorts of different opportunities throughout the state, and not every single school chooses to be part of the Science Bowl, similar to Math Bowl and Spell Bowl. And it's just exciting to have not only our team participate, but also to be our state champions this year. So I'm going to turn it over to, most importantly, JC and her team.
Thank you for having us. On January 24th, the Collegewood Elementary Science Bowl team competed in the State Science Bowl competition. The Indiana Association of School Principals, IASP's Department of Student Programs, in partnership with Purdue University, developed an online Science Bowl competition for elementary school students in grades 4, 5, and 6. Instead of traveling to a host site to compete like we do for the Spell Bowl and Math Bowl competition, the team takes a 3-part online test at their school or another internet-ready site of their choosing. The components of the competition are the team round, the experiment round, and the individual round, where 4 team-chosen representatives answered questions centered around the standards and theme of focus, which for this year was simple machines. The Indiana 2010 Science Standards for grades 5, 6, and 7 were targeted as the base to build questions for this year's competition. The 90-minute contest utilized questions created by outside consultants from Indiana Science Standards. Our team finished first in the state with the score of 95.5 points out of a possible 100. We were and are still very pleased with our results. At this time, I would like to individually recognize the members of this year's state champion team. Students, you can come on up when I call your name. Arthi Eswaran. You have to come up and officially shake hands. Yashvi Gandhi. Yeah, can you step on over there, sweetie? Siri Gowda. Emma, who? Akshat Cannon. Abhi Mortha. Ayushi Nadagari. Arush Patil. Disha Rupesh. Allison Shen, who I know is not here this evening. Varad Tangsel. Anay Vora. Ivy Wei. Sanvi Yarapotu. And Taylor Zhuang. Allison was also the designer of our very clever T-shirt. We were, on the front it says, "Let's screw things up," and we were the screw up team. So we were very proud of our creation.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you and congratulations again. Next on the agenda, we have Principal Jill Shipp from Prairie Trace Elementary.
Thank you. It is with great pleasure that I share some exciting news about one of our Prairie Trace fourth grade students. After an almost 10-hour nonstop and very fierce competition, our fourth grade student, Grant Moo, won the 2019 Indiana State Scholastic Chess Championship for 8th grade and under. As the winner of this division, Grant will be the Indiana representative to the Barber K-8 National Invitational Chess Tournament this coming summer. Grant started playing chess when he was just 4 years old and started competing the following year. Grant also likes to play soccer and ping pong, and I asked his teacher to share a few words about Grant in the classroom, and she stated that she is in awe of Grant's inquisitive nature. He's always ready and willing to accept a challenge, given the subject, whatever subject that may be. When he is first to finish, he always uses his extra time as an opportunity to learn something new. She appreciates his flexibility, positive attitude, and perseverance. He leads with a smile and executes everything he does to his absolute best ability. Grant is also a leadership buddy to one of our kindergarten students, and I like to end with saying Grant makes excellent decisions even when no one is looking. So if you would please join me in congratulating Grant with this amazing accomplishment.
Let's go here and shake hands with all the board members.
Next on the agenda, we have our first of two Music Educator Awards. So from Smoky Row, we've got Principal Lila J.
Well, hi there. Thank you so much for having us tonight. It's very exciting for me to be here to recognize Mr. Southard, Mr. Josh Southard, who was recently recognized and awarded with the honor of the Indiana Music Educators Association Elementary Music Teacher of the Year. I truly enjoy visiting Mr. Southard's classroom and can definitely attest to the energy and just high quality programming that he provides to our students. He sponsors an ORF ensemble for our school with over 80 students that participate annually, as well as most recently a Make Your Own Ukulele Club, which was quite the rage at our club night. He also provides a very unique experience for our students with our annual winter program, which is an opportunity for all of our students to perform for each other, which I just think creates a great sense of community among our whole school. And then, you know, in addition to that, he is often provided and serving the opportunity to be a mentor to college students as a supervising teacher for student teachers. We've certainly been able to benefit as a school corporation even from his mentorship to those college students. And when he's not working here, he is often presenting nationwide for ORF and for that organization just as a very coveted speaker. So he just brings a really wonderful depth to our program here in Carmel Clay Schools, and of course at Smoky Row. Our students are very, very lucky to have him. And, you know, among all of those things, Mr. Southard is just a really great person. And so I'm just very happy to be here tonight to recognize him here. So congratulations, Mr. Southard.
I've got to add just a couple of words, though, because he's great and everything, but he is a Cincinnati Bengal fan. We still love you. Also got to say that I went to the Winter Extraordinary thing where every single kid in the school either sings, plays a musical instrument, or dances. and it was like a three-ring circus. I don't know how it did it. They just kept moving, and it was like a perpetual motion, and then he would do some kind of shh, and every kid in the whole place would get quiet. So I don't remember.
And next on the agenda, we've got Principal Deanna Pittman from Carmel Middle School to recognize another fantastic music educator.
Thank you for having us here this evening. When I think of someone who is truly passionate for music, loves what he does every single day, and is a true asset to our district, I think of Mr. Joel Powell. Joel is an excellent orchestra teacher at Carmel Middle School and is one of the most dedicated, kind, and inspiring teachers that I know. To hear his students play is amazing, and it's hard to believe that they are actually just in middle school. They could rival high schools anywhere around here. He truly puts his heart and soul, and it's because of his leadership that they are so successful. On Saturday, January 19th, at the annual Indiana String Teachers Association breakfast at the IMEA convention, Mr. Joel Powell was awarded the Middle School Orchestra Teacher of the Year. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Joel Powell.
Well, once again, thank you all for coming. We're going to take a 15-second break if you want to sneak out, and then we'll count. Am I counting? Well, thank you to our administrators that are here. We're looking forward to your presentation. Before we get to that, we have consent on the agenda. Consent this month consists of our personnel report, claims, and payroll. May I have a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
So is that Layla?
It's Layla. Layla, second. Oh, Katie, second. Thank you. Any discussion? Nope. All in favor of approving consent, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. we're good. So our workshop topic is instructional coaching, and we will turn it over to Dr. Dudley.
Great, thank you. So this evening, we're going to share some information with you about one of the most fabulous professional development opportunities that we do within our district. It's job-embedded instructional coaching for our teachers. And so we have several people here that I'll introduce in just a moment that will share with you information about our program, our instructional coaching program. And then I know we had a question about some data, so we added some data too, and I'll explain that as well within our presentation tonight. So this evening, I'm excited to introduce to you, we have Mrs. Anna Arroyo, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. We have Mrs. Megan Klingensmith, Principal at Carmel Elementary. And we have Mrs. Liz Teal, Teacher at Carmel Elementary. Mrs. Sarah Fernkiss, Teacher at Carmel Elementary. Mrs. Kristen Selm, Teacher at Carmel Elementary. And Mrs. Allie Lewis, Instructional Coach at Carmel Elementary. And they're going to be sharing about our program with you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to get to share with you a program that is near and dear to my heart, and that is our instructional coaching program. Our main topics that we'll be discussing for tonight, there's so many things that we could share with you, and it was hard for us to pare it back, but we really want to give you a flavor of what coaching looks like in real life in our buildings and how it goes from kind of theory into practice. So we're going to focus today first on just talking about the power of instructional coaching as a job-embedded professional development opportunity. And then we'll focus a little bit on the role of coaches, specifically in the frameworks within which they work. And then we'll take some time, and the best part we'll be hearing from our friends at Carmel Elementary and talking a little bit about what it actually looks like from day to day within the school. And we have some teachers and their coaches here to share that with us. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about the data and also about continuous improvement, not just for our teachers, but specifically for our coaches and how we continue to develop them as professionals as well. So we're going to talk first a little bit about the power of instructional coaching, and forgive me for my long quote, but I think it sets the stage nicely. This is a quote from Learning Forward, and I'm going to share it with you. And this is from one of their white papers on job-embedded professional development. Learning to do a complicated job well requires constant scholarship taking place both in academic classrooms as well as through guided, on-the-job practice. The work of teaching, whether it's helping a distracted 6-year-old recognize letters or a struggling 16-year-old find the derivative of a function, requires extensive knowledge of learners and learning, teaching techniques, behavior management, and the content itself. Such professional knowledge requires not only years to master fully, but also the willingness to change as the evidence base of effective teaching grows, as curricula change, and as the needs of our learners evolve. Given the imperative for teachers to continually hone their knowledge, skills, and practices, teaching has aptly been called the learning profession. Job-embedded professional development constitutes a powerful lever to advance student learning. In Carmel Clay Schools, we really believe in this power of job-embedded professional learning, in that it really helps develop the craftsmanship and the efficacies of our teachers with the ultimate goal of improving student learning, and that's what we're all about here. And while that is a belief we hold, the research also supports us in the type of job-embedded professional development we're going to talk about tonight, and that is coaching. This is a piece of seminal research done on the power of coaching. It's a meta-analysis done by Joyce and Showers. And if you take a look at the top left, they talk about the different ways that professional development can be provided. And when professional development is provided really in just in terms of theory and discussion, so a presentation on a topic, what we know about the impact of that professional development is about 10% of the teachers who receive that will be able to show that they understand that content, and 5% will be able to demonstrate proficiency. But when it comes to long-term impact in the classroom and implementation in the classroom, we do not see very much implementation. In fact, this research would say about 0% of that actually ends up long-term impacting the classroom. When we go a little bit deeper and we add demonstration by a trainer, we see somewhat better results. Their knowledge increases to about 30%. About 20% can show that they have demonstrated proficiency in that skill, but again, we do not see that long-term implementation in the classroom. When there's an opportunity for practice, what they would call role play with feedback, We do much better. 60% can show their knowledge or their understanding. About 60% can show that they can demonstrate proficiency. And we see some long-term impact into the classroom, about 5%. When we're really getting into coaching, we see 95% understanding of that knowledge base. We see 95% in terms of demonstration of proficiency, but then that long-term impact and regular use in the classroom also jumps way up to 95%. So the research also supports not just what we believe and know from our own practices, but the research really shows that coaching is one of our most powerful practices that we can use in the classroom. So when we think about the instructional coaching roles and frameworks, and to give you an idea, we have coaches in all of our buildings, K through 12. We have elementary here tonight, but we have in our elementary program, we have one person per building, and that person really is a generalist. They can support teachers in all areas of the curriculum. The middle school, we also have one coach per building in the middle school. Again, is a generalist supporting all of our areas. In the high school, it's a little bit different. We have content area coaches supporting specific areas of the curriculum. So we have a coach, for example, in English Language Arts, a coach in math, and they not only coach, but they also have a teaching load as well. So part of their day is spent coaching, and part of their day is spent teaching. The benefit of that for our high school teachers is that it provides those coaches, gives them a little bit more buy-in with the staff, and that they are still in the classroom practicing, but more importantly, they can be those lab classrooms so that they can go and actually see those practices in action in the coach's classroom. When we first started the instructional coaching program about 10 years ago, there was not much out there for us, and I can speak as being one of the first coaches we had in this district. We were flying blind in many cases. You couldn't find much research, you couldn't find much support for yourself online. Now you can go and search instructional coaching, and there's lots of models out there that you can use and to guide you, and this is just one of the many examples. But in Carmel Clay Schools, we've really worked on refining and defining that role. It's helpful for our coaches, but also for our teachers to know how they can get support in the classroom in their professional development. And so we have looked at the lens of coaching in the Carmel Clay Schools kind of in two ways. We have a macro view in which the teacher can work with the coach basically on the professional learning and growth and the topics that they're interested in. But then they also can come at coaching from a micro view. So if there's something specifically they need for a group of students in their classroom, let's say they're having trouble with student behaviors for an individual student or maybe a group of students, they can work with that coach to really decide how can I specifically help that group of students and partner with the coach in that way. And then our coaching continuum is kind of our language to help it's that universal language between the coach and the teacher to know where they can come in and help in the classroom and where they can come in and help the teacher with their practices. So on the far left of the continuum, we have collaborative resource management. So that's basically, I need some resources to help me get started on something I want to learn about. Going all the way to the right hand of this continuum, which is co-teaching. And co-teaching is where the classroom teacher and the specialist plan a lesson together, and they share that lesson, they share the responsibility for the lesson's implementation and follow-up. When we look at impact and sustainable change, the further along that you're going along that the continuum, the greater the impact on teaching and learning long term. That does not mean we don't engage in collaborative resource management. That can be a really powerful practice depending on what the needs are of the teachers or the students that you're working with. And in many instances, we have teachers within coaches working with teachers in multiple areas of this continuum at once. So it's not just I'm only doing collaborative resource management or I'm only co-planning. It might be I'm doing 5 of these things along the continuum over a sustained period of time. So when we first started, we were really focused in coaching on that teacher entry point. So the teacher saying, I need help in learning how to get readers' workshops set up in my classroom. But what we found is that, going back to this continuum, we really want to help our coaches and our teachers move towards this right side of the continuum. And that is where we landed upon student-centered coaching and student-centered coaching cycles. And that's another type of coaching that we engage in that really focuses on starting with the student first. So in a student-centered coaching cycle, and this is newer to us, this is something we've been working on just this last year, teacher and the coach will work together to create a goal for student learning, and then they determine where the students are in relation to the target, so they use data to help determine where to start. And then they work to coach and implement that instruction together, so they engage in co-teaching. And this could take place over the course of multiple weeks, so typically over the course of a unit of study. And then they monitor student growth and feedback throughout that process, and then they determine if the students have met their learning goal, and if they haven't, they adjust their target and they start over, and they adjust that instruction to meet their needs. So that kind of gives you an overview of what it, the theory, I guess, of instructional coaching and how we set the stage for coaching. But we're going to pass it over to Mrs. Klingensmith, who's going to talk about what it actually looks like in real life.
Thanks, Anne. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us. We are really thrilled to be here tonight to talk about coaching at Carmel Elementary and to give you an idea of what it looks like at the building level, taking, as Anne said, this theory of coaching and really giving you an idea of what that means on at the building level and on a day-to-day basis with our teachers. So Amy introduced the teacher team that I brought along with me tonight, but as I'm going to reintroduce them and tell you their role at Carmel Elementary, each of them is sharing a little bit different angle of why they entered a coaching relationship or partnership with Allie this year. So Liz Thiel teaches second grade for us this year. She is a long-time fifth grade teacher, and so in this big change this year and going from fifth to seventh grade, she and Allie have done fifth to second grade, she and Allie have done a lot of great work together. Yeah, that would be a big change. And then Kristen Selm teaches third grade, and they have really worked a lot together on the writing workshop and what that means in Kristen's classroom. Allie Lewis is our coach, and so she's really been working with everyone at Carmel Elementary. And then Sarah Fernkiss is a kindergarten teacher, and she has done a lot of the same work that Liz and Kristen has done in the past, but this year she is working on her administrative license through the Butler program. And so as she takes much of her professional development outside the building, she's going to talk a little bit about how she's partnered with Allie inside the building for some of those great leadership experiences that she gets while she's at school during the day. So as we prepared for tonight's presentation, we really wanted you to see what coaching looks like. And it's really hard to do in a room like this without our awesome children and the rest of the staff at Carmel Elementary. And really the thought behind this presentation was giving you a glimpse of just the power of coaching. It has become a really integral part of our instructional model at Carmel Elementary, whether we are introducing new curriculum or responding to a student with a specific need, whether a teacher wants to try something new in their classroom. Allie has just done a fantastic job weaving herself into the fabric of our instructional day. And I do want to note, while we are really talking about the partnership between the coach and the certified staff tonight, the coaching position has an impact on all the staff members at Carmel Elementary. Our instructional assistants have been able to work with Allie as well, whether they're working on a new intervention with a group of students who needed a little extra support, or she's helping them push into a classroom, what that looks like. She's able to walk right alongside our instructional assistants, work shoulder to shoulder with them, and really help their professional growth as well. And I always am going to Allie myself as I think about our building and our goals. I seek out her help in kind of connecting the professional development that we have going on at Carmel Elementary. And then also, saying, hey, can you teach me how to use this new technology? Or this seems like a really cool thing. And Allie's right there willing to help me dig in as well. So coaching really does have a great impact on the entire building. So we put together a little video for you tonight, and we have taken pictures of Allie working with both our teachers and our staff, and little video clips to try and give you just an idea of what coaching looks like at the building level. And Allie and I have voiced over this video to try and connect it to the great theory behind coaching and these practices. So let's take a look.
As we work to implement job-embedded coaching at Carmel Elementary, we consider these common goals. We want our coaching opportunities to be differentiated and responsive to meet the needs of our teachers and students. We want coaching to be easy to access. We want it to build upon professional development that is tied to our core values and pertinent to all staff members. We also work to provide tailored professional growth in areas of interest that are responsive to teachers' current needs.
As a coach, I strive to make myself and coaching opportunities easily accessible to all. Teachers and staff receive weekly news with important information pertinent to all, optional readings tied to current initiatives, pictures and summaries of current embedded professional development happening around the building, and a list of options for how we might work together. We utilize social media to share the great work we're doing with one another, the rest of the Carmel Clay Schools professional community, and with professional educators around the country. Teachers and interested staff members receive a daily dash of conscious discipline to support a current initiative, and visit professional development boards to access resources and gain insight on areas of interest being pursued around the building. Relationships matter and teachers deserve the best, so I strive to touch base with all teachers regularly through informal check-ins. Teacher-centered coaching is focused on supporting the professional learning and growth of all teachers and staff members. The type of coaching utilized is highly dependent on teacher input in the context of their inquiry. When a teacher initiates an interaction with me as their coach, the resulting work falls somewhere within the Carmel Clay Schools coaching continuum. While there is great value in all tasks along the continuum, I strive to spend as much time as possible co-planning, doing demonstration lessons, utilizing peer coaching, and co-teaching in order to have the greatest impact on instruction and to facilitate sustainable change. This year, many of my coaching interactions have centered on co-planning, demonstration lessons, and co-teaching relative to conscious discipline and personalized learning, as they are current professional development goal areas for our building.
Student-centered coaching derives from a student or group of students who have specific academic, behavioral, or social-emotional needs. The coach supports the teacher to implement interventions or adjust instructional strategies to help these students reach their potential. This year, we have continued to focus on being a trauma-informed school for our students by implementing the conscious discipline. Allie has played an active role in assisting teachers to design a safe spot in their classroom, as well as introduce school-family rituals. Allie has also modeled problem-solving techniques, such as the time machine, to help students open the lines of communication and respect each other's similarities and differences. Our coaching model is the product of great teamwork, collaboration, and hard work. We have been able to listen to the needs of our staff and elicit their ideas about how to guide our professional development and make transformational changes at Carmel Elementary.
Hey, thanks. Next, I wanted to turn it over to Kristen, Liz, and Sarah so that they can share a little bit more about how they're utilizing Allie in the classroom and what that looks like for them on a day-to-day basis.
Hi, I'm Kristen Selm. I'm here to kind of share my experience. I have been in the Carmel Clay Schools for about 17 years, so I'm a veteran teacher, and I'm always still looking for ways to improve. So that's where Allie kind of comes in. So she's been a great support. So this year, this is my second year in third grade. So last year we kind of worked a lot even just with that transition. But this year, after looking at the kids and the needs I have in my classroom, basically the needs I have, just to let you know, I've got 6 IEPs, so I've got resource kids, I've got 5 ENL kids, and then some 504. So we've got a wide range of needs, and so we really wanted to look at how to really meet the personalized learning of those individual students. So we kind of took on the task of really focusing on writing workshop after looking at some of the data. We wanted to look at some of the each individual student and look at some of the goals and how we could really meet those kids and show growth in their writing. So Allie and I partnered together. We've done a lot of things on the Continuum, but we've really focused on those last 4, the co-planning, the demonstration, the peer coaching, and the co-teaching. So what we did is we started out with Allie did some demonstration lessons just for timing and keeping that mini lesson short. And then she and I we gave an on-demand writing prompt for our opinion writing unit, and then we really sat down and really dug into that data. And so we looked at the kids, where they were starting and where we needed to be. And so we took each individual student and we set a goal for each individual student. And then Allie spent the entire unit. She co-planned and co-taught and peer coached the entire unit. So she spent several weeks in my classroom where she would come in daily during my writing workshop. And so between Allie and myself and an IA, we were really able to dig in and meet kids. And as we went on in the process, we kind of looked at each individual kid and their writing, and the amount of growth that we saw just from like one little bend to the next bend, like the amount of writing they produced, I was like amazed at, especially with the kids that I had that couldn't really write, and they were writing like 2 or 3 pages of things. So as we went on, we would just look at each individual kid. We'd take what they after the end of one bend, we'd look and we'd set a new goal for them if they met that goal, or we'd continue with that goal. So they had goals that they had a little bookmark they had, so they knew what goal they were working on. So every time we conferenced, we would revisit that goal, and we had like a form so the kids, each IA that was working with them knew what the other had talked about them. We'd keep notes and everything. So at the end of the unit, it was nice to see how everything came together and how Allie was able to sit and work with me, and then we could really look at their beginning writing prompt, their end writing prompt, and we could see the growth before we set goals for the new unit. So without Allie's help, I feel like I would have been lost. She's just a great support. As you need something like a resource, anything, she's right there to help you. I've already even said, we've set up here, it said 16 hours of on-job. I'm not even sure that's like, I think there's a little bit more of 16. I've already got her lined up for a few more hours. So I really feel like it's been, the coaching has really been a huge support to me in the classroom as I transition, and even as just looking at the needs of my students this year. So, thank you.
Hello. My name's Liz Thiel. I've been teaching in Carmel for 19 years. This is my 19th year, and then I was an IA prior to that. So around 25 years I've been working in our district and with different groups of kids. 17 of my 19 years I spent with 5th graders. And so just a backstory, for the past couple of years I've thought, I feel like I need to challenge myself. I need to step out of my comfort zone, and I would love to try something new. So I got a bee in my bonnet, and last spring I went into Megan and I said, hey, I have this idea that I think I'd really like to try to teach primary. And I was super excited, and I felt like, professionally speaking, that would just be really great for me, because sometimes the greatest growth that we experience is when we kind of step out of our comfort zone and we do something that maybe makes us a little uncomfortable. So she was able to support me in that, and I became a second grade teacher. And about July, I was sitting in my classroom thinking, what have I gotten myself into? Because I started looking at all of the materials and all of the different things that came along with being a second grade teacher, and I immediately thought of Allie. And Allie had told me in the spring last year, anything you need, just let me know and we can work on it. So over the summer, we started touching base back and forth, and she was essential to this springboard from intermediate to primary for me, in terms of preparing me and emotionally supporting me in goals that I set for myself and goals that I set for my kids. And I just want to speak a little bit about some of the things we've been working on together this year. So as you can see, she's 28 hours of embedded coaching is and probably more than that, Allie has spent working with me, because that leap from intermediate down to primary is such a gigantic one. The shift in terms of you have intermediate kids that are reading to learn and gain knowledge, all the way to primary where they're learning to read. And that was a huge shift for me in terms of just my approach and my instructional strategies, and all of the things that I knew I needed to implement in my classroom. Even classroom management for me was something that was going to change a lot, because what a fifth grader responds to, a 10, 11-year-old child responds to, isn't necessarily what a 7 or 8-year-old is going to respond to. So Allie and I first started down at that end of the continuum with the collaborative resource management. She was so essential in sitting down with me and saying, here is what you have available. Let's see how we can work these things in and how you can use it most effectively. An example, just a leveled library and coming up with books that kids that are reading. I had readers starting at level C all the way up through level K, L, M at the beginning. And the only books I had were books for readers that were, S and all the way up to Z. So the books that I had with me that I quickly realized that is not going to work for second graders, and she was so essential in helping me put together a leveled library with resources that I needed, particularly when it came to our nonfiction reading unit. She even did all of the heavy lifting, brought bins down, leveled the books, took all of that off of my plate so that I could really focus then on what I needed to teach and the kind of approach I wanted to take when I started the unit with my kids. As we worked our way down the continuum, focused classroom visits, she and I went and visited Forestdale in the fall. She set that up so that I could go and actually see the ins and outs of a second grade classroom. I'd never really been in a second grade classroom to see what verbiage was the teacher using, how was she transitioning kids from one place to another, what were her management strategies, the little details that go into a day with a classroom of kids that I'd never been able to see through a second grade teacher's perspective. So I was able to go with her, we were able to observe and I was able to take back some really great ideas, and just debriefing with her and thinking, how can I take what I saw and apply it to my own room in the best way possible was so valuable. We began co-planning together, so looking at data, what does this look like, how can I take these results from my kids' benchmark assessments and with their new reading levels that I now knew, how could I take that information and streamline it into my classroom so that I could sit and conference with a student, help them establish a goal, what was that going to look like. She helped me look at that data and plan those things out so that I could do that. Probably where I got the most, just the most growth, personal growth as a teacher came when we started looking at demonstration lessons and going this way on the continuum. Allie came in for a couple of weeks and she demonstrated for me what reading workshop looked like at the primary level on a daily basis? What did math workshop look like? What did stations look like in math workshop as students rotated through? What were some ways we could make that work with the little ones? And seeing that was really helpful so that I could start putting together a visual in my mind of what I wanted my classroom to look like. Then, once I had that kind of foundation, we started looking at the peer coaching where she would come in and she would be present during a lesson. And I have some really tough kids this year. I have a lot of high needs in my classroom. So not only was she there to help give me tips on things I could improve in terms of my instructional delivery and how I could make things run better, smoother, shorten this, lengthen this, put more emphasis on this. She also helped me with the management piece and learning how to communicate with a younger student, expectations and those kinds of things, because the language and verbiage you use with a younger student isn't the same as with an almost middle schooler. And then probably the most fun is the co-teaching part of things. I've always loved co-teaching. It's such a vital piece to a classroom, in my opinion, and just teaching alongside Allie, maybe she would actually do the delivery of a mini lesson, and I would be there as a support role, chiming in, and then we would split the class or go into groups and work with individuals or small groups of kids. I could really start seeing how all of this was coming together. So when I think about the time that I've spent with Allie this year, I think about, I would always, no matter if we had Allie or not, I would have requested to go to this new grade level because I knew for me professionally and personally it was something that would be really good for me. But having her present in all of this has really, the growth that I have experienced with her alongside me, I think is tenfold what it would have been had it just been me going it alone. And I'm just grateful that she was there to support me and help me make this year as successful as it has been.
Hi, my name is Sarah Fernkiss, and I've been a teacher for 6 years. This is my 5th year in Carmel, and I have a different perspective on working with Allie. Allie and I have been almost in Carmel about the same length of time, and I have always gone to her as a resource. In fact, I can look at the Continuum and name many things that we've done to work together. But this year, I have entered my 2nd year as a grad student at Butler in their administrative program, and I have started to look at coaching through a new lens. How coaching is so important from an administrative perspective and how that factors into best practices in the classroom. And Allie has been so important in my learning, and she's become a role model to me in a way that I wouldn't necessarily have had otherwise. I am so fortunate in that she's opened her door and has welcomed me in, and I have been able to witness effective collaborations between different grade levels that, I don't necessarily get the opportunity to be a part of otherwise. She has been wonderful in allowing me to kind of see the backside of how new initiatives are introduced to a staff, how you can incorporate buy-in from everyone within the school, how to work with our instructional assistants to incorporate them in our professional development as well. All of these things have taken place throughout the day on my prep time, before school, after school. I have worked with Allie tremendously in learning how to, hone my skills as a teacher, but also as a future administrator. I'm so fortunate in that she has provided me time to reflect. She has offered a sounding board for various ideas that I have not only within my own classroom, but how to communicate that to a staff, how to lead professional development. All of those skills and strategies have come from working throughout the day with Allie, and I am so fortunate to have been provided this opportunity this year through not only my grad school work, but also having her as a role model and a coach to turn to throughout the day. So I feel very fortunate in having that opportunity and this new perspective. So thank you.
These three teachers have given you a picture of the type of work happening not only in our building, but at all of the elementary buildings that we're so blessed to be a part of throughout the district. They make me sound so smart, and I'm telling you, like, they're so wonderful and probably speaking way too positively of me, but we have amazing kids in our district, and we have some top-notch teachers. So I feel like the biggest job that I do is cheerlead them and remind them of all the great tools that they already have available to them that sometimes just need to be dusted off. As a coach, part of my job is to keep a coaching log, recording the basics of the work I do, and then to reflect on that data personally with my coaching team and with administration. And when we look at that data, I'm always so impressed by the breadth and the depth of the topics to which teachers investigate for the benefit of students. So this Wordle is a representation of topics that teachers have investigated this year along the coaching continuum. So the larger words are representative of topics that teachers have dived into with more frequency across the course of the school year. We thought it would be just a nice culmination of our presentation to you. I'm honored to work in a position that allows me to support the important work that teachers do for students each day. Thank you so much for having our team. I'm going to turn it back over to Anne.
Well, Allie is an amazing coach, as testament by her teachers here today, but I can tell you with all certainty that we could have any coach from any of our 15 buildings come and you would hear a similar story from our teachers. We have powerhouse teachers and we have powerhouse coaches in this district, and we're really fortunate to have them. So I want to talk just a little bit, kind of to wrap up, on how we continue to provide that support for our coaches and how we know, because as you can see here, they have a lot of things that they have to be able to come and work with their teachers on any given day, from working with ELLs to conscious discipline to standards-based reporting. The list goes on and it changes regularly. So we really believe not only that our teachers should have opportunities for continuous improvement, but our coaches should have those as well. So I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Dudley for a minute, and she's going to talk a little bit about how we collect data on our coaches and how we can, and then I'll talk a little bit about how we use that data to help support our coaching program.
Thank you. So as you can see, coaching is very well works with our mission of that continuous improvement and providing that personalized learning for all of our students, that making sure we get that instructional match, that just right instructional match for our students each and every day. So one of the questions that came up was, okay, well, yeah, but how do you know? How do you know about how's it working? What data do you have? And as Allie talked about, part of what she does is one of the ways we collect data is through the 4T's coaches logs. So they collect data on the teachers that they're working with. They talk about the topic that they're working on. They're talking about where on the coaching continuum it falls. And as they mentioned, many times it falls in many different areas of the continuum. So the data, I have two graphs for you. The first one is, this is the total instructional coaching cycles. This first graph you see here, broken out over a 3-year time period with elementary, middle, and high school. And as they talked about, this is coaching cycles. So a coaching cycle could be as short as one session with the coach, or it could be long and go over many, many weeks. And it all depends on the question of inquiry or the area of growth that they're focusing on, the area of need of what they're working at. So these are interactions, but they're not just one-time sessions. As many of our teachers tonight talked about, Allie came in and worked with them over a series of weeks. And all of those series of weeks is counted as one coaching cycle. So that's where these coaching cycles are broken out over middle school, high school, and then also elementary school. Now, as Ann mentioned, this is our 10th anniversary of being so fortunate to have coaches. We started the coaching, instructional coaching, with stimulus money way back
2009.
Yeah, 2009, 10 years ago. When we had special ed stimulus money, you may recall, where we were really looking at that RTI. And then the coaching, we started at our elementary, and we had middle school and high school, but we had just a few coaches that were shared throughout the district. Ann was one of our original coaches, and I remember the interview as we were talking about the model that we had, and we said, we're going to build this in flight. Because, as she said, there wasn't a lot out there on instructional coaching. But it was such a powerful tool that really helped to embed that learning. And that's where we've built upon that over the years. And as we talked about, we're a district that really looks at that continuous improvement and that continuous learning. And over the years, our coaching model has continuously improved. As we look at the different models we have at the elementary, the middle, and then as we look to bring coaching on at the high school, one of the pieces as we looked at the research and we looked at the needs of the teachers, and as the teachers shared what they needed, they really wanted to have that credibility to have coaches that both did coaching, had coaching periods, and then also had teaching periods. That works in a high school level because kids have different periods that they attend. And so they can keep one leg in the classroom, and that creates that demonstration classrooms, which we're still working to develop. We're still looking to that full potential of those demonstration classrooms. We're not there yet, but we're moving towards that area. So that's our first model. So the second graph we have here is taking the number of teachers we have at each level and dividing it by the number of coaching cycles. So this is an average. Obviously, it's not saying that every teacher had,
I think we did them backwards.
I had them flipped, I'm sorry. But it's not to say every teacher had 8.47 sessions with the coach. This was based on an average by the number of teachers. So those are the two graphs to kind of give you some context of how coaches are used. One of the questions, too, that we received is how many teachers utilize the coaches? Every one of our teachers utilize the coaches, but it's at different degrees. So it may be a teacher that it may not be reaching out to the coaches, but they're working with the coach on learning facilitation. So they're learning about a new program, and the coach is leading that. So they're all interacting with the coaches at some levels. And we have other teachers that are interacting with the coaches, and they're what we lovingly call resource hogs, where they're always using the coach and the coach's time. Not that any of you are that. But it's really, you know a good thing when you see it, and you want to invest in that to improve the teaching. And so those are our data pieces. I'll turn it back to Ann.
So that data is really helpful to us from an administrative level as well, because the coaches keep what we call a 4Ts log, which stands for time, topic, task, and I always forget the teacher. That is a reporting tool where they log when they're working on, with teachers. They keep a log of that, and that log is visible to Dr. McFarland, myself, who oversee the coaching program, but also to their school administrator, so that they can kind of get a sense for where they're working and how often and what the topics are that they're working on with teachers back in the building. Then we use that data to help us know how we need to continue to grow our coaching program. So a good example would be when we start talking about student-centered coaching. We're noticing on the logs that a lot of our interactions were really closer to that left side of the continuum. We had less opportunities on that right end. And so we found student-centered coaching to be a way to help us move further along that continuum, another way to kind of present that to our teachers and to our coaches to help them move forward in their practices. We meet regularly with our instructional coaching team, and we engage in a lot of problems, what we call the problems of practice, where they bring topics, or we'll bring topics to really kind of engage in collaborative problem solving around, as well as professional development. We do engage in regular book studies as well. This is just a sampling of some of the book studies that we've been engaging in. Actually, this is from the last 2 years of book studies. Another area of professional development that's been very powerful for our coaches and our administrators as well is training in cognitive coaching. So all of our instructional coaches have received formal cognitive coaching training and are cognitive coaching certified. Cognitive coaching is another type of coaching that engages the coach in coaching the coachee into being more self-directed, into finding solutions from within themselves. So they engage in the coaching cycle, which is pausing, paraphrasing, and posing mediative questions of the person that they're working with. And we have different types of conversations that you would engage in through cognitive coaching, and we learn how to do those, and we actually practice those in our coaching meetings as well. We also occasionally will engage in some data analysis and case studies. So, for example, we had an interesting case study at one of our schools, and we took all that data of the students, removed all the names and all the identifiable information, and we said, here's a student that is presenting X, Y, and Z issues in the classroom. What do we do? Where do we start? And we really worked at analyzing that data and coming up with some ideas and engaging in that problem-solving practice. We also spend quite a bit of time on reflection, so we build in times in our professional development with our coaches for them to look at their own data and to do personal reflection, because we know that's really a powerful tool, especially in the area of coaching, for continuing to grow in their craft and in their practice. And then we also provide curriculum training for them as well. So they have to often go back to the building and be the experts in their building on, might be on Reader's Workshop or Writer's Workshop or junior great books, for example. So we work to give them sometimes more specialized training for them so they can go back and implement that back in their building. So I'd like to end with a quote from one of our favorite coaching resources, Elena Aguilar, and she wrote the book Art of Coaching, Effective Strategies for School Transformation. Coaching is a form of professional development that brings out the best in people, uncovers strengths and skills, builds effective teams, cultivates compassion, and builds emotionally resilient educators. Coaching at its essence is the way that human beings and individuals have always learned best. And that's really, I think, summarizes the beauty of the coaching program, is that it's collaborative, it's relational, and it really builds on the strengths of the amazing teachers we have in this district. And to quote our very favorite Dr. Beresford here, together we are better. And that coaching program really approaches professional development and teacher learning and growth in a collaborative way. And we know it works well for kids. When we approach learning that way, it also works well for adults. So at this time, we can answer any questions that you may have.
Well, thank you. Before we get to the questions, I just want to thank you all for taking time this evening to come and share all about this great program. I know I've got questions, but I will start with other board members.
Yes, thank you very much. I enjoyed the presentation immensely. I remember when Ann was in our building at Orchard Park.
I'm sorry.
And we started the program over there. And she was very good at what she did. I think at the time a lot of teachers felt threatened by having a job coach, that sometimes you felt like you weren't doing the job that you were supposed to be doing if you had to have a job coach come in and help you with your classroom. But I see where the longer this program has been implemented into the schools, there's more buy-in by the teachers. The teaching staff seems less defensive, which I think is great, because it has become more of a day-to-day part of the school system, rather than somebody who has just come in and said, you know, I'm your coach now, what do you want to do with me? I want to know a couple of things. You did talk about their professional development, because they would have to be on top of a lot of subjects in order to be a coach. So that's an important thing that I think needs to happen for the coaches. Also, I want to know where the special ed teachers fit into all of this, as well as E&L teachers, because it seems like the instructional coach has now taken on the job of helping with the special needs students. And I always we always felt when I was in the classroom that 2 teachers are better than 1. So having somebody else in your classroom with you would have just been fantastic to help you with those students. But my question now is, what role do they play in this whole thing with the instructional coaches?
The instructional coaches also support our special ed staff, and they also support all of our staff who support our students with IEPs or special ed. So they come alongside both the classroom teacher and the resource teacher to support those students as well and provide opportunities for learning about how to differentiate, how to look at the curriculum that they have and make sure that they're personalizing. I know Carmel did a lot of work on personalization this year, but how do we make sure that given the general ed curriculum, how do we work with that curriculum to meet the needs of all students in our class? And that can be special ed, that can be E&L, kids with behavior needs, high ability students as well. So they really are kind of a jack of all trades. Not saying that it's always easy to be an expert on everything, but we also have within our greater coaching team, we have people who can help support our coaches across the district. So we have teachers or coaches that were high ability teachers in the classroom, and we meet regularly to help with those problems of practice. So if a coach doesn't feel comfortable or doesn't have maybe as deep of a tool belt as they would like, we have those supports in place via the other coaches, but then also through administrators in the district.
So you would sit down with the special needs teachers or the special ed teachers and in a collaborative setting have your discussions about special needs students?
The coach would work with those special needs teachers, those resource teachers directly. But if the coach needed more support, if in the instance that a coach maybe says, I don't know if I have all the tools that I need to help this teacher, they have supports back within their coaching team and also from their administrative staff and from administrators here in the district who work with them regularly.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
And also, Pam, we also have behavior consultants that also work with our most difficult behavior issues, and where they're doing it's a little bit of a different role than an instructional coach, but many times they might partner up as well and work together to how do we make sure we're meeting the needs of the students.
So those behavior coaches would also come in to the classroom and work with the teacher alongside the instructional coach, or on their own, probably?
Both.
Both. Mm-hmm. Okay. Also, I was wondering, Liz, how helpful were your teammates when you started in second grade?
I have the world's best team. Kimmy Fisher and Judy Schwartz and Stephanie Borlick, Stephanie's high ability. In terms of, like we talked about, which is in terms of resource management and helping me gather the things that I need. We have weekly team meetings, and I mean, it's amazing working with this group of ladies because they are so supportive, personally, emotionally, professionally, like just a top-notch group of women to work with. I'm really blessed. And so I feel like, between Allie and these other 3 women, I mean,
You're flying high.
And I'd also say that a coach will work with an individual, but coaches also work with whole teams as well. So they'll work with whole staff, small groups, and individuals. So it just is really based on the need at the building and the need of the teacher as well.
One more question, is that okay? Sorry. When an instructional coach is working with an individual teacher and working on a whole unit of study and co-teaching, what time does that leave for the instructional coach for other teachers during the day?
I would say it's probably a juggling act and a balancing act. I don't know, Allie, do you want to speak to that a little bit, how you balance and how people use you and make sure we don't have those resource hogs and everybody gets their help that they need? Yeah, come on up.
So I would say it is a juggling act for sure. I keep my calendar updated, and I try to be very mindful of those times when I'm dedicating more regular time to a particular teacher for that work. A lot of times it just works out schedule-wise, and then our teachers are also really good at being flexible and saying, hey, I've had her every day for the past 2 weeks. Somebody else wants her, so absolutely we can share. We can still co-plan in those instances so that the teacher feels comfortable being there outside of a co-teaching situation, so that we can be flexible to support everyone.
So just as a follow-up on that, so do you determine where you're going to be, or does your administrator, or?
For the most part, and chime in, Megan, it's the teachers who really determine where I am. I'm a yes person, and if I can be there when a teacher asks me to be, then I am.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Back on the charts that you had, I noticed a big jump between 2015-16 and 16-17. Could you explain what that was? Do we know? Was there more funding, more teacher, more coaches?
Is that when we brought all of the coaches in at the building level, Amy?
Well, okay, so in 2015-16, that was the first year that we had middle school coaches.
Okay.
And then we expanded the coaches to all of the buildings. That's the first year that we expanded. Prior to that, we had coaches that shared, like when Ann started, she worked at 3 different buildings, and some coaches worked at 4 different buildings. But this was the first year that we had coaches in all 15 of our buildings. But they were also just learning and just developing, and also keeping their logs, because this data is all based on the coaches' logs and the number of interactions. And keeping those logs up to date. And sometimes the data collection is important, but it's not the most important piece. And so, we might have had some different discrepancies in the data collection. But as you can see, it's the last 2 years are more, illustrative of the coaching. And when we look at the data so far this year, it's trending with these last 2 years.
Thank you.
And I would add, too, as Pam mentioned, when we first started coaching, it was very challenging to kind of overcome the initial stigma that a coach was there to fix teachers, because it was such an unknown kind of idea at the time. It was brand new, and really it took a long time to get the trust and build the relationships, and for people to understand that coaching is not about fixing teachers. It's about helping teachers who want to continue to grow in their practices. And once you could see that, okay, this is not somebody who's spying on me, this is somebody who genuinely wants to help. It took time to develop that, but we're finally, I think, really seeing kind of the impact, and we're seeing the growth in the program overall. It's taken time. Elementary is in a really great spot. They've had coaches the longest and most consistently, but that piece really does take time to grow.
I think I would also mention that when we shared coaches among buildings, we would put in a request, and sometimes it took a couple of weeks up to a month before you could get the coach into your classroom. And so when we first had full-time coaches in 15, 16, I don't think that the teachers or our staff was used to being able to have that immediate support and help. Like, I would like to implement something and I can do it right away. And I think the more that our coaches are able to say, yes, you're feeling stressed about this tonight, let's work on it, no problem, that has really increased the number of times then teachers are like, ooh, I know I can go right to the coach and they can help me quickly solve this problem or help this student. And I think that has been a big change in what I have seen in terms of the data and the teachers wanting to interact with the coach.
One more. What are the qualifications of an instructional coach? Like, when you put out the job posting, what are you looking for?
Sure. We want to have a master teacher that has, some experience teaching. We're looking, 5 to 10 years. But we're looking for a disposition as well, somebody that can build relationships, somebody that can work right alongside and, roll up their sleeves and learn alongside. Because our coaches are fabulous. They're very, very smart. They're hard workers, but they don't know everything. And that's the power of that collaboration and that team, and they're learning right alongside of the teachers. So they're teachers that want to continue that growth mindset, and it's really looking at that disposition too, that piece that they want to continue to learn. So.
I have several, but I think most of them are pretty short, easy answers. Coaches only go into the classroom when requested by a teacher. They don't initiate. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure that. When you're working on a full unit, you're not necessarily in the classroom all day. You're just there for the portion of the time that you're working on that part, whether it's reading or math or, okay. How frequently do we rotate who our instructional coaches are? Do you go back into the classroom to teach, and how does that work?
So we've done some different things. At the elementary and the middle school, we've done it through attrition. We don't have a plan to rotate instructional coaches, because a lot of that ongoing training, that cognitive coaching, that's very involved. That's 8 full days of training over a full year. The training that our coaches get is in-depth training. At the high school, when we first brought the high school coaches on, the thought was that they really wanted to rotate the coaches, and they wanted to do, first they thought they wanted to do it every 2 years. Well, when they brought them on and they got to that 2-year mark, they said, yeah, no, I don't, we don't want to do that yet. So they thought, well, maybe we'll do it every 3 years. At the high school, our coaches have turned over a little bit, because some have said, you know what, I really enjoy coaching, but I want to go back into the classroom. Others went back into the classroom because they felt like it wasn't a good fit, or the administration felt like it wasn't a good fit for them. But it hasn't turned over as much as they originally thought they wanted to do, so it's not as planned out. Okay. But their thinking was to, kind of keep it fresh. Mm-hmm. But the other side of that, you have to balance that with the continuous training for our coaches.
I would also add, the more co-teaching that we see happening with teachers and coaches and the coaches, there are a number of times I hear Allie say, let me plan and teach that first, because this is a new piece of, curriculum for us, and I really want to understand it so I can help everybody else. And so there are times that she has said, do you mind if I come do this for you this week, because I want the opportunity to teach it. And I will add, there are often times that she's like, I got to teach today. I think that our coaches really do miss teaching. I mean, all of us at times, we miss that student interaction and getting into the classroom is super fun. And so I think that the coaches really seek out opportunities to continue to stay really fresh and the instructional strategies.
That's fantastic. So to help, I suppose, to launch and have a great rapport initially with the coaches, did the coaches come from the elementary school that they would, so they know the teachers and there's an instant rapport, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. It just, it depended when we opened it up to have coaches in all of the buildings. Some of them did come from the elementary school they were teaching in. Others came from another elementary school, and others came from outside the district. Like Allie came from a different district and joined the year we opened it up.
Okay. And Allie, you had mentioned that you have conferences with all the teachers each week to see if they have a need, or how frequently are you meeting with all the teachers? And do they feel pressured, or are they excited, or talk to me about how they're initiating some of those outreach.
I wouldn't say that it's a weekly basis. I always think in my head about just how challenging it was as a teacher to make sure I was on track with all of my students, and how much it needs to have those face-to-face interactions. So I keep personally the list so I can make sure that I've at least said, hey, how are you, to everyone in the building. I shoot for that weekly. But that's just a personal goal, and that doesn't mean that it's anything formal so much. It's just a chance for somebody to say, hey, could you help me with this really quickly so that they feel like they, and you like the weekly email that she sends, she's always got like, again, like there's some things you need to go, she gets a list of like things and then people can speak out. There's some teachers are afraid, I'm not afraid to speak out. I might want a little too much, but it really truly is a great experience to co-teach in that way. It's beneficial for kids.
Well, I love the weekly email and this communication tool that you're using. Is that something that is common for all of our coaches, or is that your style and that's the way it works?
Yeah, Allie's specific one. Other coaches, they may communicate through an email, they may communicate through other forms in the coaching, but they do want to make sure they're continuing to build that relationship with all of their teachers so that the teachers do feel comfortable in seeking them out.
Well, the example you shared, I'm like, oh, I would love to receive things like that. So, right on. Thank you.
And they know to click delete whenever it doesn't go well.
Well, thank you.
I just have one question. So at the beginning of the presentation, you compare different types of professional development, right? And then show that this job-embedded instructional coaching is most effective. So I just wanted to know what percentages of our district's professional development now consist of this instructional coaching? Is that replacing all? Or it's just the most of the
We can go back to that.
development?
So if you look back at the graph that Ann shared, when you are looking at the different models, so theory and discussion. So as you can see, theory and discussion has very little use, but when you add demonstration by a trainer, you add to theory and discussion, then it gets better. When you add role play with feedback, when you add coaching. So it's not just, you're no longer doing learning facilitation, you're no longer learning about something in a workshop, but you're adding the coaching to it. So we have, our professional development is, we have coaching in all of our buildings where our teachers are utilizing that, but we also still have workshops where you are learning about something new. So in reader, when we first brought Lucy Calkins' writing in, the teachers engaged in a learning workshop. Then they took that and learned how to apply it in their classroom with the support of Allie in doing some co-planning, some co-teaching. She might have done some demonstration lessons for them. So this is it's not just you do this or this, but it's this combined with all of those other pieces. Does that make sense?
I just have two more questions. One, what was your professional development board? You mentioned that. What is that?
Oh, that's in Allie's class. I was very worried going into the coaching position because I know the work that goes into the teacher's job every day. So I wanted to find a way to make resources and pictures of the work being done in the building available to teachers. So Megan gifted me a huge classroom. We had one. So instead of a coaching office, I have a room. I couldn't have empty walls, so it was just my way of putting up resources that were relevant while also celebrating the work that was happening around the building. So for our different initiatives, you could go see just some different things that people were trying, some different handouts that we've used, articles throughout the year. So.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And the other one is, what do you do about resource hogs?
I embrace them whenever I can.
Do you just gently let them down and say, I'm sorry, I can't be in your classroom today?
Yes. Again, I try to stay as busy as I can and help as many people as I can. So if I can say yes to resource hogs, I always will as long as I've got the time to do it. So.
Well, the idea is, once she works with you long enough, you don't need her as a resource as much. So then it kind of just works itself out.
It does ebb and flow.
I have one other question. And Megan, I guess it's for everybody, but primarily Megan, you had mentioned that you've used Allie as well to help with professional development for the school, for all the staff. Do you survey the staff to see what their needs are or what their interests are, or how do you go about deciding what type of professional development that you're going to be providing?
Well, I think it's a multi-pronged approach. really used our student data to guide us. You know, I had some areas that I really felt like, gosh, we're not quite hitting the mark yet in this area or that. And then I went to C4 and I listened to some of the speakers and just kind of thinking about what do I think we need to do at Carmel Elementary to really help those striving readers and the students that aren't quite, you know, where we want them to be, and how do we respond to that? And so I, you know, had been really circulating and playing with a couple of school goals, and I think I first went to Allie with Rebecca, our assistant principal, and Allie and I met during the summer, and I was saying, okay, you know, I really have 2 areas in mind that I would like to work on this year as a staff. How does this fit in? Talk to me about what our needs are, you know, in the classroom, and that is really how we started to come up with the idea of working on the conscious discipline and being more focused on becoming a trauma-informed school, helping our students with need. And then we took on personalized learning as our other goal, and really looking at what does it need to respond to individual student needs in the classroom. How do you do that when you're teaching 25 students at a time with 25 different needs? And so really I use Allie all the time in knowing, you know, the staff and knowing students around the building, and just kind of then teasing out, okay, here are our school goals and how does that fit into, you know, what Liz wants as a teacher and, you know, across the board. And one of the things that I thought about a couple of minutes ago as I was sitting here is we have not mentioned brand new teachers. And, you know, for a long time, we had a state mentoring program that would, you know, allow that teacher to have a mentor. That went kind of by the wayside. And the coach has really been able to step in and be a huge help to those new teachers. And now as I'm interviewing and looking for people for our team, knowing that they have Allie, and she's one of the first connections that I have them make in the building, and just saying, okay, you know, check in on them, make sure that they're doing well, anything that they need. And how many times I hear, oh my gosh, I had no idea I could have this as a new teacher. So, you know, I really look at Allie as a sounding board, helping me come up with ideas and make sure that I'm doing enough to support the staff, and thinking about those goals that we need to meet and working in the right direction.
Well, first of all, thank you for your dedication to our district. We recognize that we've got great teachers, great coaches, great principals, and great administrators, and really thank you for what you do every day, the impact you have on our students. We as a board appreciate it, and our community appreciates it, so thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the superintendent's report.
Before I jump in there, I just want to thank you guys. That was just an excellent presentation of the power of an instructional coach. I'm a big fan. In 2006, I went through the gauntlet to convince my central office administration, I was a principal at the time, to hire the very first literacy coach in the district I was working in. And kind of along the same lines, this discussion went first. The teachers were kind of like, who is this person? What are they doing? And who is this new principal who says we're going to do literacy across the curriculum? You know, I teach shop, you know. And it was amazing the way those relationships grew, and all of a sudden we were writing papers in shop. And we were doing, I had a vocabulary list in every discipline in the building. So the power of it is just amazing. And you guys did a really nice job of just giving us a picture, a snapshot of what that's like. I was at a conference earlier this year, and Doug Reeves was a speaker, and Doug's been around for years, and he goes around the country, and he's a researcher, so he's always kind of throwing out what's the high-yield strategies. What if you're going to spend your money on something, what's the best, bang you're going to get for your buck kind of thing. And coaching was one of the top ones. And the illustration he gave was like if you had he gave an athletic metaphor. It was like if you have a kid that really is a professional that's really struggling with their free throws, what would you do to help them? Well, you would send them to a conference where they would talk to them about free throws and how you would properly shoot that free throw, and then maybe you would have them read some articles about how to shoot free throws, and and he says, no, you get shoulder to shoulder with him, and a coach goes with him and says, no, you got to move your elbow and you got to flip your wrist, and because we can't just sit and get kind of thing. You really need someone shoulder to shoulder with you to actually get in there with you and work with you in that. And you guys did a nice job of really showing that metaphor too. So kudos to you guys, and I got to tell you, when I got here and I found out there was a coach in every building, I thought I've just died and gone to heaven. So life is good. So yeah, thank you. I'm going to start out with just as a matter of record. I want to report to the board. I know that you might have this information already, but as a matter of record, I want you to know that I've appointed Assistant Superintendent Amy Dudley as the coordinator of the policy committee for Carmel Clay Schools. I've also appointed board members Lynn and Pam to serve on that committee. And the purpose of this committee is to write, review, and revise board policy as needed. And I want to thank the three of you for taking on that job. It's one of those thankless jobs that has to be done. It's a lot of detail to it. And policies come from a lot of directions. It can come from legislature. It can come from just our own review. It can come from just a lot of directions. So I really appreciate your work there. And I wanted to get that out as just as a matter of record. Some really cool stuff going on in the district, and this is going to be kind of a Carmel High School highlighter tonight because we've already got Carmel L, so we might as well just go across the street and talk about them. But I know you guys are aware that Carmel High School had their Culture of Care Mental Health Awareness Week this past week, and it was really something special. The purpose was to continue to bring awareness of the importance of understanding mental health, reducing the stigma of mental health, and promoting acceptance and educating students and staff on learning like coping skills, educating them on what kind of supports are out there, and what services are available. Along with that, they had the Parent Awareness Night, which I did not get to attend. I was at another parent meeting, but the reviews I got from that was very, very strong. But I really like the way that the high school's approaching that and trying to make it. It was fun. I mean, they had therapy dogs. They had themed days. They had just a lot of things going on. They had therapy dogs, which of course is my favorite thing. They had puppies, and so they had a lot of good things. And the line to get in to see the dogs was pretty long, from what I understand, at Carmel High School. But they just did a lot of really important good things, and learning skills like mindfulness and just a lot of good things going on. One of the coolest things they did was they challenged all of us in the district. I received an envelope with $20 in it and said do a random act of kindness, and I was like, wow, I've got $20 now. What are we going to do with this? And they did that all over the district. So there was all kinds of random acts of kindness. I don't know if you had a chance to see the video, but it was just really heartwarming. The number of things that was going on in this district all over for $20 that the high school sent out to just kind of generate that thing to go on. So it was pretty amazing. Carmel Elementary exchanged their $20 for 2,000 pennies. Which is pretty special, and taped them on a kindness note that read, "The cent is not to be spent. Instead, keep it in your pocket as a reminder to be kinder." And they distributed them all over the place. So kudos to you guys as well. Cherry Tree Elementary took $20 and they purchased blankets for Wheeler Mission, and they posted it on social media, which inspired parents and community members to donate as well. So it's kind of like the random act of kindness, starts and then it spreads to the next and to the next and to the next. And even here at the ESC, we were able to get a bunch of bags of personal hygiene things, and we're distributing those to places that need it. So I was real proud of the team here that got involved with that as well. So just a lot of really cool things going on. Along with that, the high school debate team finished the regular season with flying colors, and two students qualified for nationals, and they won enough spots. The kids placed high enough that they qualified as a world team, so they can go as a team to compete in the entire world. I don't know if it's in the world, the entire world, but it's probably here in the United States. And I guess if they win that, they'll go to the intergalactic games. But you know, those steel-eyed debaters, I don't know if you've ever attended a debate, but you know, the kids have to be really light on their feet, and they have to be able to argue a point very well, and then the next round they may have to argue the other side with equal you know, skills. So it's pretty impressive. Last week was National School Counseling Week, and I just want to throw another kudos out to our school counselors and school social workers, because they just do a wonderful job. And I sent them a little message, and I said, you know, when kids come from very supportive and you know, they're very well supported at home with their families, it makes our job a little easier. But when they don't, it makes our job more important. And our school counselors and social workers take that and with very determined spirit to make sure that every kid gets supported, and they just try to find ways. I could tell you story after story of the things that they've accomplished in very difficult situations that have been really trajectory turners, you know, where things are going the wrong direction, and they're able to intervene and raise support and get the kids and families what they need, work with like youth assistants or other supports in the community, and connect them to get some things done to get kids in a good spot. So kudos to our team there. The 33rd annual Carmel Education Telethon is kicking up here on the 19th, 20th, and 21st. I'll be working the phones on the first night there, so I won't get the word out to the community that it's a good time to donate. And I've been working on my script. I've been told I'm not very good. I started with, do you have money? We need it, but I'll try to smooth that out before I get on the phone. I promise I'll try harder. So then I guess I'd have to come down. By bell ringers, I've got two. So I'll go with the first one. Was on Friday night at the Carmel High School basketball game, right before the game against some school at the East. It was Hamilton Southeastern. They were Lions or Royals or something like that. But right before that game, the first responders who came to Carmel High School on the night of the explosion, so we had people from the fire department, the police department, we had people from Skillman Construction Company. We just had a lot of people that just worked all through that Christmas break to get our school to move from the responding to the emergency to recovering from the emergency. And probably the highlight for me was that Mike Wyatt came, and Mike's a really humble guy, but he wanted to come because he wanted to thank those guys. And so he was right in front of me, and we were going down and shaking hands with those guys. I tell you, I was getting all choked up. It was really special, and it was, and then the crowd gave them all a high, standing ovation, and the appreciation of our kids and our families and our communities is something special. So that was bell ringer number one. Then bell ringer number two is this. Did you guys hear we won the state swimming? The women's swimming team won the state championship for the 33rd year in a row. I had never been to such a thing, and I got to tell you, I've been to a lot of athletic events, and I've never been at a state level, high competition level like that and seen such domination. When I got there, which I've never been before, and I bought the heat sheets and the top 8 score, and I'm looking through the finals, and we have 2 or 3 swimmers in most of the events. So that's the top 8 swimmers in the state, fastest swimmers, and out of those spots, 3 out of the 8 are from Carmel. That was, the power of it was pretty impressive, but was really what was the coolest thing about it was the joy those kids had in competing. So many times we put so much pressure on kids, and their eyebrows are down, and they're, these kids were laughing and they were for they were supporting each other, and they were just, you could just tell they loved one another, and they wanted everybody wanted everybody to do well. Then you go up in the stands, there's 100 kids, and they're in Hawaiian shirts, and they have all these traditions, and they say there's coordinated, and it was just, I kept, between watching the swimmers and watching the fans and watching the parents, it was just, Pretty amazing thing. So yeah, kudos to the girls swim team and that whole culture they've developed of excellence, but also just the team spirit and the heart and the real genuine care they have for one another, wanting to be successful is pretty special.
I did see a GIF on Twitter that I think is notable of a certain superintendent jumping backward into the swimming pool.
You'll hear a lot of stories about things like that, and I really wouldn't buy into that too much unless you have verifiable evidence. And shoot, those things, they can screenshot those all over the place. But now, I did take a dive. I was, challenged by several people to do that, and I got to tell you, I almost choked. I had no idea what I was doing. And everybody kept jumping, and there was nowhere to jump because they were in the water, and I kept I didn't want to be the guy that jumped on somebody and hurt them, and Dr. Harmer said, don't hit your head on the diving board. And I was like, I don't want to be the superintendent that busts his noggin on the diving board, and there was so much potential for embarrassment. And when I did, I embarrassed myself pretty good, I thought. So, but I've embarrassed myself before, so thank you for bringing that up just one more time. Just thank you so much. But anyhow, it's been a great week in Carmel Clay, and it was a little foggy this morning, but we were able to come to school today. I think everything went fine, so we'll hope for the best for tomorrow. So that's my report. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your report. Just upcoming meetings. Next Monday is President's Day, so no school. The following Monday, February 25th, we have our school board regular session meeting, and then March 11th, we have our school board workshop meeting. So with that, I will take a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second, please. Second. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Yay.